Name me a single objective we've ever set out to accomplish that we've failed on. Name me one in all of our history. Not one. It's never been a good bet to bet against America. And it's still not a good bet today.
And that was President Biden angrily touting his accomplishments this week as he marked 1 year since he signed the Inflation Reduction Act into law. The bill, which Democrats passed with zero Republican support, has failed to rein in inflation on everyday basic essentials like food, energy, and shelter, despite costing taxpayers $1.2 trillion. As Biden recently admitted, it should not have been named the Inflation Reduction Act because it is more of a spending plan on his climate change initiatives than a vehicle to reduce inflation. In a new Fox News poll, a majority of registered voters are giving the president a thumbs down across the board on his job performance with the economy, inflation, border security, and foreign policy. These topics expected to take center stage when the Republican National Committee holds its first presidential debate this upcoming Wednesday night in Milwaukee, which you can see here live right here on Fox News beginning at 9 p.m. Eastern. It is unlikely that former President Trump will participate in that debate, even as the 45th president dominates the field in the latest Fox News poll, maintaining a 37-point lead over his nearest competitor, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. Joining me right now with a preview on what we can expect as the debate this Wednesday night is the chairwoman of the Republican National Committee, Ronna McDaniel, back with us. Ronna, it's great to see you.
Great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is very exciting. The first debate begins. Give us some expectations here.
You know, I think this is the beginning of the general election. I think a lot of families have been out in the summer. They're getting their kids back in school, and now they're dialing into the fact that we're going to be electing a new president within a year, and this is going to be the debate stage where we're going to be able to tout what Republicans can do versus the failure of Joe Biden. Listen, Maria, you just went through it. People are hurting. The average family's paid $10,000 more under Joe Biden. They've paid $2,000 more in energy costs. This Bidenomics is costing American families, and they are hurting. Not just with that, with fentanyl, with kids who still have deficits in school, with crime surging. They are looking for a solution, and this debate stage is going to give them that first glimpse of hope for 2024.
So let's take a look at the lineup there. I think that President Trump will not be there on the debate night. What are your thoughts on that? And who did make the debate stage?
Well, I'm still holding out hope that President Trump will come. I think it's so important that the American people hear from all the candidates. But there's a lot of candidates that have qualified. We're at 7 right now that have officially qualified with the small dollar donations, with the polling threshold and the pledge. And then we've got some that are on the cusp. So we're going to be looking at polls the next few days. There are 3 or 4 that are waiting for 1% in one more national poll to make that debate stage.
And you've got great diversity, women, African-American, really across the board. We just heard from Vivek Ramaswamy last week, Larry Elder perhaps making the debate stage. Tell me about the lineup this year and how that's different from what you've seen in past.
You know, the Republican Party represents the diversity of America. Despite what the mainstream media says, you look at what we've done in Congress with the many candidates we've elected, and our debate stage reflects that. Tim Scott, Nikki Haley, Vivek, Mayor Suarez potentially, Larry Elder potentially. This is going to be the most diverse debate stage we've ever had as a party, but that's what we're seeing as our party as well. We're growing. We are expanding our reach with Hispanic voters, Black voters, Asian voters, and they are coming to our party. Why? Because we're championing things like school choice, the American dream, lowering inflation, economic opportunity. Those are things that are bringing many, many more voters to our party.
Well, you've also got to match the Democrats in terms of spending, in terms of getting the vote out early. The difference in the amount spent last time around was staggering in terms of the money that the Democrats have versus Republicans. That's also one reason that you've launched this Bank Your Vote initiative. Tell us about it.
So this is a huge initiative. Thank you. It's called Bank Your Vote. Go to bankyourvote.com or text bank to 80810. But what this is we're trying to educate our voters and make sure they understand the importance of voting early. Get your vote in the bank. Make sure that you vote early and then sign up to be a poll watcher. But it costs us less money when you bank your vote early because we're not chasing your vote until Election Day. So if there's 45 days of voting, if you vote on that first day, that's saving us a robocall, a door knock, and it allows us to use that money to get low propensity voters or swing voters in the bank and helps us win elections. So this is just critical. What I say to voters all the time is we can't wait till the fourth quarter to start scoring in the football game. We've got to be scoring all 4 quarters, and that means voting earlier than ever. We're going to protect that vote with lawyers on the ground and poll watchers and poll workers, but we have to do both.
What about the money, Ronna? I mean, look at the red wave that never happened. Was that because Democrat dollars mopped it all up? How are you going to compete on the money?
You know, I look at 2022 as the year of the independent, and I think one of the stories that doesn't get told is in every single battleground state except Pennsylvania, a Republican won statewide. So we had more ticket splitting than we've ever seen. So it really is going to be, how do our candidates appeal to independent voters? Independent voters now make up 42% of the electorate. And that's why this debate is so critical to start our conversation, not just with Republican primary voters, but with independent voters who are disillusioned with the Biden administration, who will vote Republican, who we are going to need if we win back the White House.
Well, you just mentioned people to become poll watchers. People want to know if the RNC is going to protect them. Ronna, I'd like to know what you all are doing about these people who are getting indicted because they were a special elector. I mean, I'm told that and you're talking about Michigan. The Michigan AG is going after all the Republican electors. There's an 81-year-old woman in Michigan who's looking at an indictment because she was an elector. How are you planning on getting more electors to say, yeah, okay, I'll join the group and become an elector. I'm a lawyer. I'll give advice to Republicans if they're facing an indictment?
Well, we have to win, Maria, and this is part of the Democrat plan, is to put people in such jeopardy and scare them so much that they'll leave the system, that they won't be a lawyer, that they won't be an elector. This is their plan. So we have the best Senate map we're going to have in 12 years. We have to win back the Senate. We have to hold the House and keep Kevin McCarthy as Speaker. And then we have to win the White House so we can push back on these extreme Democrats who are trying to punish people for just being part of the political dialogue. And that is not good for our country. And we have to make sure that we win so we can protect these voters. Yeah,
no, it's not good. And ordinary people want to know if the RNC is going to protect them. Are you going to spend energy and time and money on that?
Absolutely. We have lawyers on the ground. We've already been there. And this is part of our Protect the Vote initiative as well, is we're going to have lawyers in every single precinct. We're going to have lawyers involved in every state. We had 19 councils last cycle. We're going to expand that. And we're going to have poll watchers and poll workers. But that is part of protecting the election. And we also have to protect people, make sure that they're not going to be penalized for being part of the political system.
And real quick before you go, Ronna, is that lineup on the stage it? Is that who we're looking at, of course, plus Donald Trump? Or is there another person coming in? A lot of people talking about Glenn Youngkin. Is he going to throw his hat in the ring? What does that mean for the RNC?
I'm not going to answer for Governor Youngkin. He has said he's not running. Right now, we've got a pretty robust field. I'm excited about the candidates. But more importantly, I'm excited about beating Joe Biden. And this isn't about Republican versus Democrat right now. This is about people who are are hurting terribly under this Biden administration, who are paying more for everything from eggs to groceries to insurance. They just can't afford this anymore, on top of crime, an open border, 100,000 people dying of fentanyl in this country. This is unacceptable. And we have a president who doesn't care. Biden does not care. He turns his back, he goes on vacation, and this is our opportunity to save our country with this election, and we need to elect a Republican as the president.
And very soon after all these debates, the government runs out of money. You'll have to deal with another issue, the potential of the government shutting down, right?
Yeah, absolutely. There's always going to be issues on the horizon, but this is made by Biden. I mean, I laugh that he's using the phrase Bidenomics, because Bidenomics has only worked for one family in this country where they've been enriched, and that's the Biden family, with 20 different LLCs that have funneled $20 million to 12 different family members. But every other family is not benefiting from Bidenomics, so I guess it's working for him only.
Yeah, well, he's told us to pay our fair share. We will see if Hunter does the same. Ronna, good to see you. Republican National Committee Chairwoman Ronna McDaniel. Good luck this upcoming week. Of course, the nation is watching.
Thanks, Maria.